Let's jump right into today's explainer. We're looking at something incredibly rare and, honestly, deeply fascinating. We aren't just breaking down a published paper or some flashy press release today. Instead, we're getting a behind-the-scenes look at the uncompromising reality of high-stakes medical research, specifically through an actual real-world PhD supervisory blueprint. This document gives us a front-row seat to how rigorous science is actually forged in the highly scrutinized field of Alzheimer's disease research. We're going to see exactly what it takes, step by step, to prevent bad data from ever making its way into the medical system.
Now, hidden within this academic intervention is just a massive amount of sheer drama. I mean, think about it. A PhD student's entire multi-year project is being forcefully pivoted. They're being pulled away from flashy, headline-grabbing claims and pushed towards strict, rigorous reproducibility. The supervisor is stepping in on August 2nd, 2026, pulling the emergency brake and essentially saying, "We're changing course right now." It's a massive reality check. And it really shows that in serious scientific inquiry, getting it right is far more important than just getting it published.
We're going to treat this stepwise execution plan like a survival guide for navigating the crisis of bad data in Alzheimer's research. Here's how it breaks down. First, the reality check. Then, building the data arsenal, followed by the technical proving ground, locking the synopsis, and finally, guardrails for scientific success.
Okay, kicking things off with Section 1. The reality check, shifting the scientific paradigm.
The contrast between the old plan and the new direction is absolutely stark. The old plan was all about biomarker discovery and early prediction, but the supervisor correctly points out that this standard workflow is totally saturated. Everybody is doing it, but it lacks true independent validation cohorts. You simply cannot claim you've found a tool for early diagnosis without the long-term longitudinal data to actually back it up. So the pivot is toward rigorous reproducibility and meta-analysis. Instead of going on a fishing expedition for brand new biomarkers, this PhD will now rigorously investigate how well the existing already published blood signatures actually hold up across entirely different platforms and real-world populations.
Before we go any further, let's make sure we're all completely on the same page about the core subject matter here. What exactly are these researchers looking at? Well, they're studying transcriptomomic signatures. Simply put, this is a specific pattern of gene expression in the blood that researchers look for to identify or study a disease. So the crucial takeaway is this. Researchers desperately want to find a simple blood test for Alzheimer's, but this student is now tasked with testing whether these specific blood patterns, these biological fingerprints if you will, actually remain consistent when you test them on entirely different groups of patients all around the world.
Moving right along to Section 2, building the data arsenal. Target 5th to 9th of August 2026.
This blueprint outlines 3 absolutely non-negotiable steps. First is the official dataset inventory. The student has to pull exact sample counts, diagnostic groups, and platform details straight from official repository records, places like AD&I or GEO. And crucially, the blueprint explicitly warns against using AI-generated summaries for this. You have to go straight to the primary source. Second is overlap mapping. The student has to explicitly document the relationships between datasets, specifically pointing out linked batches. Finally, they have to do a novelty search through PubMed to definitively prove that a gap still actually exists regarding the reproducibility of these specific signatures.
So the big point here is that you have to treat these datasets with extreme caution. Basically, treat them like a literal crime scene, where every single piece of evidence has to be meticulously tracked. Why? Well, if you take 2 batches of data from the exact same original study and you treat them as if they are 2 completely independent populations, you're essentially double dipping. Misinterpreting linked data as independent artificially inflates your results and it contaminates your entire scientific evidence base. The supervisor is slamming that loophole shut before the research even begins.
Let's look at Section 3, the technical proving ground. Target 10th to 15th of August 2026.
Having great ideas is one thing, but can the student actually write the code? They have to master industry-standard tools like R and Bioconductor. They have to successfully import data, meticulously document their quality control and any excluded samples, and then run a basic differential expression contrast on a pilot dataset. Then they have to orally explain those results. But I absolutely love this last point. They must submit an honest skill gap declaration. They have to openly declare to their supervisor exactly what they don't know yet, whether that's version control using Git or advanced meta-analysis techniques. It creates this incredible environment of total honesty rather than a toxic culture of hiding your weaknesses.
Section 4. Locking the synopsis.
Target 16th to 24th of August 2026.
This brings us to the cardinal rule of data science that's being ruthlessly enforced here, the no leakage rule. Data leakage happens when information from outside your training dataset is used to create your model. If you normalize data across different cohorts at the same time, or if you select features based on the whole combined dataset before you even test anything, your model is essentially peeking at the answer key. This incredibly strict methodology ensures the student absolutely cannot allow data leakage to artificially inflate their reproducibility results.
The finalized synopsis has to focus entirely on 4 core objectives: systematically identifying the datasets, reanalyzing independent cohorts from scratch, synthesizing the results using meta-analysis, and assessing the heterogeneity, which basically means figuring out why the results differ between studies. And take a look at that conditional 5th objective. They are only permitted to do a transportability analysis if, and literally only if, they can prove they have a complete, fully published scoring metric and a genuinely independent dataset to test it on. Absolutely no making leaps of logic without the hard data to back it up.
Finally, Section 5, Guardrails for Scientific Success, Institutional Milestones, and Absolute Rules.
This maps out the incredibly daunting sprint this PhD student is facing over just a matter of weeks. It all culminates on September 12th with the RAC presentation, the Research Advisory Committee. In that room, the student has to defend their methods and prove the absolute feasibility of this entire reproducible pipeline. Keep in mind, they aren't defending some flashy new discovery here, they are defending their rigorous methodology.
And these are the uncompromising, everyday guardrails they have to operate within. AI usage is heavily restricted. Sure, they can use tools to help search, but every single claim has to be manually verified against primary papers. No blindly trusting the chatbot. Next, sample size. Do not invent statistical calculations just to make your proposal look better. Stick purely to the analyzable numbers that actually exist in those cohorts. And most importantly, total transparency. They must maintain fully scripted R workflows. Every single thing has to be coded and logged so that anyone, anywhere, can fully reproduce their work with the push of a button. It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? When we look at the unvarnished reality of what it actually takes to prevent bad data from entering the scientific record, it completely changes your perspective. This one supervisor is forcing this one student to undergo an incredibly intense, rigorous gauntlet just to test the reproducibility of existing Alzheimer's theories. It begs a massive question. When you scroll through your newsfeed tomorrow and you see those flashy scientific headlines making huge claims, how many of those so-called breakthroughs could actually survive this exact blueprint? It's definitely something to think about the next time you see a medical headline that seems just a little too good to be true.